that you have. So now let's talk about the movable, fixed, and dual fire. Aries is the head, and that's where we get an idea. And Aries is also a movable sign, so that's why our ideas change, right? We have the right to change our minds, right? And our ideas, they can change. And Aries is all about, I have an idea, and I'm always sort of going to do things a bit different because my ideas change. And that is why Aries is known for not wanting to do things in the same way, because Aries has a lot of different and changing ideas. Movable signs, they want something different, something that has changed, or they want to go from one place to another, right? If movable signs do something the same way, then at least they will go to a different place, to do it the same, okay? So Aries, for example, might say, I discovered something that I can do in Europe, let's say, okay? And I've done it there. But now I want to do that, let's say, in South America. Okay, so Aries takes that same idea, but it goes somewhere else, right? And with movable signs, there's always that element of change and newness. And when we take an idea, let's say, from one country to another, then that becomes a new thing in that new country, right? And that's what a movable sign does. And Aries especially does that in the world of ideas, right? Aries has an idea, I want to create something, okay? And next comes the fixed sign of Leo. And Leo is the product that we create, or the world that we build out of an idea or an inspiration. And that world is going to exist for a while, right? Because Leo is that fixed, reliable, consistent fire sign. And but it, of course, always depends on the well-being of whatever it is that you create, right? The well-being of your kingdom and how useful it is. And that will basically determine how long that it is going to last, okay? So now after we have created and built the kingdom, the next modality is the dual sign of Sagittarius, right? That's where we learn what we need to about ourselves based on the kingdom that we've created, right? There's always that learning process with the dual signs. And that fire triangle is all about the self, right? The fire is the self. It's the life inside of us that wants to come out. In Aries, the life wants to come out and it becomes an inspiration. In Leo, then the life that wants out has found an external reflection and manifested itself as some type of kingdom or creation. And in Sagittarius, an understanding arises within us based on the kingdom that we created. And of course, that can be many things, for example. So let's say you created a kingdom with a noble idea. And as you're managing your kingdom in Leo, you started to learn many things about yourself that you didn't know before, right? And maybe you think, I'm not really such a good person. Or maybe I can do it better in this way, right? Maybe I can improve this in my life. And one of the keywords with dual signs is always improvement. And so basically, we have an idea, then with Leo, we go and create the world based on that idea. And then we come to Sagittarius and say, hey, wait a minute, I can make this better, okay? Having this kingdom made me realize that I need to improve myself. I need to improve what I do with my inspirations. And Sagittarius is the sign of learning about oneself based on the kingdom or world that we have created out of our inspirations, okay? So we create with our inspiration, we build that world out of that inspiration. And then as a result, we learn so many things about ourselves as a result of actually having that world. As a result of actually having that world. Okay? So the dual signs, they have a fixed and a movable component, right? Which means they change within a fixed structure. That's why we use the word improvement, right? So if you have a fixed structure and you improve it, then you make changes within it to make it better. And so Sagittarius makes changes within the fixed structure of, of a kingdom, right? Or makes improvements within the fixed structure of who they are as a person, right? We are who we are, and there's a certain fixed nature to it, right? We cannot, jump out of our body, or we cannot change our core personality, okay? But we can make changes in the context of who we are and the road of life that we walk on. And Sagittarius will do that. Okay, Sagittarius says, I want to be a better person, and then it gets busy with all sorts of Jupiterian things, right? Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter, and so it wants to learn more, get higher knowledge, and follow inspirational and learned people, right? And so this is how Sagittarius learns, somehow through acquiring all sorts of higher knowledge, and then also teach it to others as well.